However humiliating the experience was for the people who remained in Yafa, the experience of many who left in 1948 has been even more extreme. They have had a lifetime of upheaval and danger. Perhaps as many as 1 million refugees fled Palestine, fanning out in all directions. But most of the refugees who escaped from Yafa went southward by sea to Egypt or northward to Lebanon. Only a handful of them would ever get the chance to return home. Many thousands of the refugees who left Yafa by boat headed north for Beirut. Then, as now, a city famous for its sophistication and worldliness. But almost all of the Palestinians who came here found themselves in a very different Beirut, a city of tents, intended to provide temporary shelter for them until they could return home. Many of the people who, 60 years ago, found themselves in these tented temporary cities are still in the very same place. Of course, the tents are long gone. Today, the refugee camps of Lebanon have a feeling of permanence about them. They speak strongly of the resilience of people and their power to survive and adapt. The maze of winding streets in the camps of Beirut, like Sabra Shatila or Burj al-Barajne, may be ramshackle, but I'm struck by the idea that perhaps some parts of the old city of Yafa, the ancient quarter between Ajami Street and the port, might have looked like this. But first the British, and then the Israelis, blew it up. As I continue to explore these camps, many people seem to catch the idea of why I'm here and come to tell me that they feel close to Yafa, even though they or even their parents have never been near the place. I've been told that somewhere in the Burj al-Barajni camp is an alley they call Yafa Street because so many people whose origins are in Yafa live there. As I ask people for directions, my mind is filled with the idea that all the people in these camps felt the impact of atrocity and massacre. Whatever the complexities of the politics in Lebanon that led to these outrages, you can be sure that many of the victims were simply ordinary people trapped in the wrong place, far from their homeland. I find Yafa Street and Mohsena Farhan and her brother Hassan, who give me a sense of what it's like to endure a lifetime of armed conflict in Lebanon.
We stayed here. Where were we going to go? We would tread over the bodies of the dead when we were fleeing the bombing and would have to step over corpses. This is true. It's not anything we dreamt up. We saw it with our own eyes. All this would make us so scared.
At the bottom of the building where 20 members of the Hassan family live, there is a room half underground. For decades now, this has been the family shelter. In times of crisis, the whole family have crammed into a small space with a sink, a gas burner, and a bed. For days on end, they would huddle together, while the building shook and was filled with the terrifying noise of bombing.
We stayed where we were, and the planes flew over us. They hit non-stop. All our life has been war. From when we first came here, there's been war. And even in Palestine, there was war. One war after the next. One war after the next. How can anyone count them? There have just been many wars. So many wars.
But for a small, lucky number, the move from Yafa to Beirut was almost seamless. The Gharghours were one of the privileged dynasties of Yafa who lived in the ground houses of Ajami Street and nearby. T. Gharghour et Fils started out as a family business 80 years ago, exporting oranges and importing Mercedes cars. Today it is an international enterprise with a base that moved from Yafa to Beirut in 1948. Tawfiq Gharghour was 6 when he came from Yafa to Beirut.
When my father came here, they started taking what they had in Jaffa as agencies here in Beirut. And then the war happened, May 48. A lot of the cousins and in-laws of my family started to come to Lebanon. Coming to Lebanon meant a lot to me and to my family, for sure. Everybody helped us. Everybody did what was possible for us to feel at home. We were most welcome, and for this, the gratitude of my family, of me especially, is great for Lebanon. I really mean it with all my heart.
Back in Yafa, I visit the house on Ajami Street that was once owned by Tawfiq Gharghour's grandfather until it was confiscated in 1948 and divided by the Israeli authorities into units for multiple occupation.
They used to
This is
store
where?
it here, yeah.
Really? Let's have a
My
look.
guide is Fakhrish Day, whose pharmacy business has been operating next to the Gharghour house since 1924.
Can't believe we can't get in.
This house was nearly neglected for more than 30, 40 years. It was became nearly dilapidated. And then a Frenchman, a Jew, by the name of Steinitz, came and bought the house.
Really?
Yeah, he bought it from the Amidar Apotropos, the custodian of enemy property.
The Jday Pharmacy on Ajami Street is one of the very few institutions in Yafa to have been continuously operating since before the Nakba. In fact, it has the same interior as it had when Fakhri's father opened it more than 80 years ago. But at the time of the Nakba, Fakhrish Day was living in Lebanon, studying pharmacy. In the spring of 1948, as the conflict in Yafa reached its climax, Fakhri started looking for somewhere in Beirut so that his parents could come to join him and live in safety. But then the messages from his parents changed.
The last letter I got from my father telling me, no, don't look for a house. We are not leaving because your mother and sister object leaving Jaffa. So they remained. At that time, I was cut from their news for 11 months and 10 days while in Beirut. While in Beirut, I used to go every morning. At 8 o'clock in the morning, I used to be at the Beirut port, receiving, the people are coming in the boats, in the ships, and so I used to meet the Jaffians and ask them about my family. At that time, I had the idea that they were dead. Then the Red Cross in Beirut informed me that your father is making procedure so you can join your family. And one day I got a letter that I had to be prepared to come back to Jaffa. It was on a Sunday, 15th of October 1950, I came back. I came, it was really a strange view of Jaffa. Nothing remained of Jaffa. Some in the buildings, but friends, people I know, no one. I told my father, I can't live, so I want to go to France, to Paris, to continue my research for my doctorate. He said, how you can go and leave us, your mother is sick, I am an old man, and so. He convinced me to stay. So morally speaking, I took the decision to stay and to drop everything. For 58 years, I'm working as a pharmacist in Jaffa. They call me, the people here around, they call me the doctor of Jaffa.